Okay.
So we did representative government.
Okay, so what is representative government? It's a system of government with an elected assembly, and at least some parts of the assembly must be elected by the people.
So the earlier forms of government included the theocracies, hierarchies, and dictatorships. Basically, these forms of government usually put power into the hands of one person, and people had no say on like anything that went on. It was just the one person deciding everything.
Okay, so the shift to democracy. So democracy, a government in which the authority govern lies with the people, and then there's two types of democracy: direct and representative. Direct democracy, former democracy, where the people vote on policy directly. So this is where the people's will votes will go directly to what yes or no. Whereas representative government is people vote for people to represent their opinions. So that's similar to what we have. The transition from monarchy to representative democracy was a lasting process. Middle Ages until 12th century. There's a lot of different influences that went into that. We talk about that. This transition from monarchy to representative democracy can be divided into representation, empowerment, and suffrage.
So the three divisions, as Keelan said, are representation, empowerment, and suffrage. Representation is like a group that initially serves as an advisory body to the leading person. These people didn't really have a say of what went on, but more just like gave advice. And they were typically like the higher ranked people, such as nobles, clergy, or merchants. Empowerment was when the switch from all power being in that top person to the representative assembly having some power. And this initially occurred in England with the example of the Parliament. And then suffrage, which is probably the most important thing, was when representatives were elected by the citizens to represent them and make the laws and decisions.
Okay, so one important influence was the Roman Republic. They were the first society to have a representative government, but it didn't have very much democracy. It was governed by two consuls, elected annually by the citizens and checked by the Senate. So it had many principles based on the checks and balances system, which is what we use today, which helps influence modern governments.
So the different branches are executive, legislative, and judicial. So the executive one is the part of the government that had sole authority and responsibility for the daily administration of the state. Legislative is the branch that made and passed the laws, amend the laws, or repeal the laws. And then finally, the judicial is the one who interpret or apply the laws.
Okay, so here's a nice graph we found. Middle Ages, 500, 1500, national representative assemblies emerge in West European kingdoms, most notably Parliament, so they're the biggest arise of representative assembly. Early modern age, 1500 to 1800, Parliament permanently achieves major political power via English Revolution. Thenceforward, agitation for strong representative government becomes constant through Western Europe via the American Revolution. The United States achieves representative government without monarchy. And modern age, 1800 to present, in the early 19th century, the U.S. achieves white male suffrage. That became the world's first representative democracy. Thenceforward, democracy is gradually achieved throughout the West and beyond. Universal suffrage is gradually achieved over the 20th century. So it was a long process before it eventually became what we had today. But each little, parliament came, and then eventually more representation started to form, and then now we have what we have in the United States.
So basically, like, how did this lead to the rise of the West? The hierarchies suppressed and controlled the people with absolute power, and basically, as the theories that we learned, they discouraged innovation among people. And the newer forms of government took power away from those top people and allowed people basically like the looseness of society, which enabled them to like get inventions and do important tasks like that. And they allowed specialization in like less known areas of discovery and industry.
So here's a little summary. Representative government, a system of government with an elected assembly. The switch to representative government allowed innovation in societies. This was because society was loose and not strict. Also, the people's voice were heard as they elected an assembly. The bureaucracy.